Good evening, Wildcat fans. Welcome to Eagan versus Shakopee Junior Varsity Conference game here. Our second to last home game of the season here on Teacher Appreciation Night. Second to last home game. Shakopee takes that D to D, sends that up to the blue line and able to tip that in onside. Levine behind the net, able to briefly tip it into the corner, and that one will escape back out for Mann and Groutman, who lay a hit mid-ice. Mann not able to recover. Zane Erickson in net. Levine drops that down to Razinen, who tips that up. Backhanded into the zone by Hudson Schmidt. Siljan behind the net, able to get a stick on that. Dump it deep into the corner. Schmidt gets pushed into the boards. Shakopee recovers, hits it to the sideboard, and then back in mid-ice. That'll go all the way down. Tipped, so Beckwith will have to take it, put it into the boards for Thomas. Thomas sends it over for Siljan with a nice catch pass there. Siljan gets it over to Eddie. Eddie's streaking shot on goal goes wide. Kept in there by Beckwith, who dumps it into the corner. Quick glove save there by Eddie, tipped down, and then Shakopee sends that back to the point. Beckwith able to hold as well into a skate to Shakopee, and they bring it back into neutral ice. Siljan had left that, trying to hit Thomas. Thomas at the bottom of the circle, sends that across the crease. Tipped ahead, turned over there Beckwith out front. Beckwith 3 centers behind, caught out front by Thomas. Thomas to Urich. That one behind the net. Quick pace here early in the game, about 2 minutes down. Shakopee sends that back to the boards, kept in by Strom. Brought to the center by Steinke. Steinke shot and goal! Was that tipped or Steinke in? Steinke leads the charge there. 2 shots on goal get Eagan on the board, 1-0. Nice play from Steinke to get it off the boards. Nice recovery there by Zane Erickson to tuck the puck and keep it out of the net. Back deep into the zone, top of the circles. Mead able to get that one out. Has his stick batted out into the air. No call. Mann trying to pull it off the boards. Has Gillespie there waiting at the point. Mead comes in, overbats Gillespie. That one's going to sneak out. Nice defensive back check there as Mead picks that up. Looks for options, chips it around one. And he's going to try to get that up the boards. Gillespie comes in to help that one. He left for Razinen. Razinen able to dump it deep into the zone. Back behind the net, Mann almost had an interception there. Siljan pressures, forces the pass. That one back down. Picked up there by Schmidt. Schmidt sends it up the boards for Mann. Mann gets around one. Steps aside. Tried to leave that for Siljan. Siljan pressuring. Able to keep it in briefly, but that one gets back out to the neutral zone by Shakopee. Shakopee steps around one. Levine able to dump it deep into the zone. Back for neutral, 3-on-2 developing here for Shakopee. Drop pass to the top of the circles, Levine on it. Sent across there, taken away by Schmidt. Schmidt through neutral ice. Holds at the top of the line, tries to feed a pass over to Siljan on the other side. Siljan behind the net for Schmidt. Schmidt not able to center. Schmidt fighting for it behind the boards, gets help from Siljan with a little push, but still held by Shakopee. Shakopee tips it into the neutral. Beckwith, Levine defend. Push out to Siljan. Siljan drops for Beckwith. That one gets tipped up into the netting for a whistle. Defensive zone face-off for the Cats. Taken here by Steinke. Steinke leaves it for Gillespie. Steinke able to chip that around to Thomas. Thomas sends that out. Picked up again by Shakopee. Shakopee drops it down. D-to-D pass across the zone and tipped up to neutral ice. Thomas there to recover, tip back down for Gillespie. Gillespie sends it up the boards, and that one tipped back out for a Shakopee recovery. Off the glass and deep. Thomas to Gillespie. Gillespie sends it up the glass, neutral. Tipped off, so no icing. Icing will be waved off. Back down. Shakopee, D-to-D pass deep in their zone. Send it across. All the way across. Levine with a stick tip. Has control. Feeds that over the skate of Groutman. Groutman now rushes in. Onside. Groutman takes it to the corner. Looking for his option. Sends it into the slot. Turned over there. And Shakopee the other way. Nice defensive play by Levine as that then gets tipped in behind the net. Razin trying to get first on the puck. Groutman and Razin fighting along the boards. Shakopee trying to pull it to the center, run into some skates and sticks. Cycle it back, intercepted there by Razin, and they send it up into the neutral zone. Mead covers at the sideboards, steps around one, has man going to the net too, shot high and wide. Kept in there by Razin, and Razin not able to get it over to Levine. Tipped up, recovered by Schmidt. Schmidt sticking out the boards, trying to find time and space. Take it to the center for himself, and that one gets pulled behind the net. Kept in there by Eddie. Drop down, glove save there by Mead. And now as Levine gets off, Gillespie on, shot goes wide, back to the boards for Schmidt. Schmidt takes a step back, still working at it. Pulled off by Gillespie. Gillespie with speed, taking it up. Having the rush, waits for reinforcements, drops it for Beckwith, heading towards the net. Shot goes high, tipped down. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but results in a offensive zone face-off after a whistle and stoppage in play. Eddie, contested draw, goes back down for Gillespie. Gillespie able to fend off pressure. Pulled to the center by Schmidt. Schmidt with a pass to Siljan. Siljan recovers. Pulls back. Tried to center that for Eddie. Schmidt looking as well. Kept in there. Eddie sends it back to the point for Gillespie. Gillespie takes it to the center, top of the slot. Tries to dish it through. Gets his own rebound there. Shot. Glove save. Shakopee. Back down for Schmidt. Caught some skates. Schmidt's still working on it. That one sent across the boards. Strom pressuring. Shakopee trying to get it further out of the zone. That one gets sent up and all the way down. Icing waved off for some unknown reason. Shakopee dumps it back behind the red line. Thomas taking off his feet, gets back up. Steinke the other way. Gets it through the skates, gets it deep into the zone. Steinke lays a hit. Strom trying to regain control. Steinke, Strom working in the corner. Arm goes behind the net for Shakopee. Shakopee pulls it up to their own point. That one. Thomas waited as his team cleared. And a delayed whistle as the goalie wanted to play it on, but maybe waited a hair too long. Levine, Beckwith, Mann, Groutman, and Mead. And Levine, Mann, Groutman, Mead, and Mann. Into the corner behind the net for Groutman. Mann comes in to help out, pulls off the net, trying to look for space, gets the point for Beckwith to Levine at the point. Levine cycles it in for Mead. Mead back to Levine. Levine for Mead. Mann not able to control. Levine back down towards the net, blocked aside by Erickson. As that one leaves, a man will rush towards the point. Send it in deep, hits the back of the net. Mann and Mead looking to recover, kept in there by Levine. Shot on net, goes right on goal. Paddle save and stop it to play. Back down to Eddie Schmidt. Fans on the shot. Back to center ice for Thomas. Schmidt. Back in the neutral zone. Siljan. Pulls it in onside, takes a shot. And a fluttered save there by the goalie, able to regain control and then stop the play. Siljan tried to regain control along the boards. Schmidt steps in, sends it back behind the red line. Schmidt bumped off puck, still pressuring for it. Able to keep it deep into the zone. Shakopee sends it to the top of the circles. Stretch pass across the ice. Thomas. And that one gets back to mid-ice. Shakopee will have to send DV pass, touch back up, and they do. Send a shot towards the net. Hits Eddie. Eddie to Gillespie. Gillespie sends that in, tipped in. Siljan trying to get it with the goalie behind the net. Eddie. Shot gets blocked. Back to the boards. Strom able to pick it up and get it deep again. Shakopee sends it to their far side. That one goes behind the net. They'll recover. Trying to find space up front. That one goes behind Gillespie with a good defensive play. Sends up the board for Stanky. Stanky trying to get to Strom and does. Strom leaves that for Urick. Urick centers, taken over there by Shakopee. Send it on. Nice job. Rather than getting in the way, that one gets shot through the crease. Strom able to pick it up, send it back into the neutral zone. Urick watching. Shakopee brings it back in, top of the circles, tipped out by Groutman with a nice stick. Back down for Razinin, up to Groutman, lost in his skates, tipped and kept control. Urick comes in to help. Back out for Levine and Razinin to defend. Centering, opportunity, curled away to the boards. Cycled down back to the corner. Shot goes wide, behind the net. Back to the point, dump back down deep again. Mann able to intercept, that one gets rung around all the way to the top of the point. Groutman lays a hit, goes off for a change, that one back down. Razinin briefly got a stick on there, leaves it for Mann. Mann a little bit too hard for Schmidt. Possession not fully controlled here, still loose. And that will be a whistle, a hand pass against Shakopee. Goes down to all the way to the offensive zone. left home. Eddie Schmidt, Beckwith, Siljan, Thomas. Schmidt tried to pull that to the circles. That one goes loose all the way down tip, so no icing. Thomas, first on it for the Cats, leaves that for Beckwith. Beckwith, stretch pass out to the boards all the way down. That will be an icing. Siljan calling for it. Eddie at the draw. That one gets towards the net, tipped above it. Shot on goal. Gets intercepted there by Beckwith, who tipped it up for Siljan. Tipped again, past Beckwith. Brought to the corner. Thomas able to cover, send it up the boards to Siljan. Settled down there by Eddie. Eddie leaves it for Thomas. Thomas drops it in. 2 minutes left in the first period. Wildcats up 1-0, shot 7-2. That one shot from the point, goes a little wide left, out front for Eddie. Eddie backhands it in, still trying to get it towards the slot. And Shakopee able to have a stretch pass back through neutral zone. Thomas defends well, keeps his man to the boards. Sends it over. Nice angle by Erickson. Shakopee keeps it in, sends it back deep. Cycle behind the net. Thompson there first. 1:29 left as Thompson tries to pull it out of the corner. Gets help there from Eddie. Shakopee pulls it to the corner looking for options. Not able to send it back down. That one gets sent all the way down the ice. And we will see another icing whistle with 1:11 left in first period. Back down, Shakopee top of circles, not able to get a full shot off. That one goes loose for Strom. Strom gets bumped off the puck. They pull that onto the defensive zone. Gillespie there at the point, able to force a weak shot. Sankey off the boards. Centers looking for options. Lee keeps it to himself, and Shakopee will have to recover in their own defensive zone. Send it back to mid-ice. Gillespie there, not able to get around him. Gillespie sends it up the boards. Shakopee sends it high up on net. Glove save, Erickson. Seconds left in the first frame. Puck down there for Mann. He loses an edge, brought back down for Razinen to Mann. Mead able to tip it back to neutral zone. Mann and Groutman enter the zone. Possible 3-on-2. Groutman shot above the net. Mead pulls it off the boards. Mann towards the center. Loose in the slot. Back out almost to the Gillespie stick as Shakopee makes a rush up the boards. Razinen with a nice defensive stick towards the net. Smart play, Liam Razinen. Erickson able to smell what Razinen was cooking for a nice defensive play just as time expires. 1-0 after one, shots 9-5 in favor of the Cats, and we will be right back. Back for second period action. Those of you joining us for the JV game, you want to watch the Varsity crew, change on over to Eagan Television on YouTube. 7 p.m. game, teacher appreciation night. All the seniors get to choose one of their favorite or most influential teachers and honor them on the ice. Next game will be next Tuesday versus Rosemount, away at Rosemount. Puck's back down for second period action as Mann brings it in. Leaves that for Mead. Mead back to Mann. Mead back to the point for Levine. Levine shot low and hard, save. Shot from the point from Willie Levine. Nice puck movements here early from the Cats in the second period. Back to the point from Beckwith. Mann brings it to the center, covered again by Shakopee netminder. Mead leaves that, back to the boards. Up the boards and now out past Levine. 2-on-1 developing here. Shakopee shot and goal. 1-1 Shakopee after 6 shots. Five and 6. Thomas and Gillespie on the ice for D. Schmidt, Eddie, and Siljan, your forwards. Shakopee brings that in. Gillespie able to send that back up. Tipped there by Eddie. Shakopee will have to retouch back up. Gillespie takes it back out around the point. Up the boards, almost up the glass. Shakopee able to keep it in. Step to the center, top of the slot. Back to the boards is Thomas. Thomas to Siljan. Siljan trying to tip that into neutral. That one goes across for Shakopee. Shakopee brings it in. Onside to the corner. Cycle that back to the boards again. Behind the net for Eddie. Eddie sends it over for Siljan, who will recover and send that just briefly out into the zone. Schmidt picks that up at mid-ice, and he's trying to make a lane for himself. Got Eddie on the other side. Schmidt brings it to the center. Pulls it away. Shot. Glove save. Shakopee netminder. Number 35. Razin, Levine, Strom, Steinke, and Urick. That one kept in. Steinke bumped off the puck. High hit. Strom. Shakopee pulling up the physicality. Back down. Speed by Shakopee. Levine bumps it back into neutral ice. Steinke still trying to get his stick away. Back behind the net for Levine. Levine sends it around the boards, trying to find Strom. Strom tips it down to neutral ice. That one sent all the way down. No icing. Strom, Steinke at the red line. That one back to mid-ice. Covered here by Razin, who sends it back deep into the zone. 12:50 left in the second period. Urick trying to recover along the boards. Shakopee the other way. That one past Levine. Shakopee, shot on net. Levine gets that back to the corner. Cycle back down deep for Shakopee. Razin in there, able to get it up the boards. Not yet out, as Levine will get behind the boards and send it back for Razin. Razin in the corner, trying to leave that for Levine. Razin to Strom. Strom sends it up into the neutral ice. Mann, ball down, and that will draw a penalty. Ethan Mann draws a penalty, brings the Wildcats to their first power play of the game. Offensive zone face-off for Eddie, Siljan, Schmidt, Thomas, and Beckwith. Eddie sends that into the corner. That one back to the point for Thomas. Thomas back for Eddie. Eddie to Siljan. To Eddie. Siljan to the point for Thomas. Thomas keeps it in off the stick of Eddie. Still able to recover. Keep it on the boards for himself. Back to the point. Thomas sends over to Beckwith. Beckwith shot off of a skate. Kept in there. Schmidt shot on goal. Bounces up high, too high for Siljan. Kept in there by Beckwith. Beckwith to Siljan. Siljan to Schmidt. Back to Beckwith to Schmidt. Schmidt gets knocked off his skates. And that one goes into the bench off an errant stick. Offensive zone face-off once again. Same forwards. These get changed out for Razinen and Gillespie at the point. Back down. Gillespie keeps it in. Cycles that into Schmidt, who loses the handle, and that one go all the way back down as Eriksson plays it for Razinen. Razinen behind the net, waits for reinforcements and sends it up to a streaking Eddie. Eddie brings it in, brings it deep in, leaves that for Siljan, cycles. Siljan tended to leave that for Razinen. Shakopee not able to dump that deep, and Gillespie will take over. Gillespie up to Razinen. Razinen with a nice pass to Siljan. Siljan shot on net. Save there, Shakopee back to the point. Sent in. Siljan, shot goes high and wide. Razinen able to go up and pinch. And that one will go sent down again on net, just past the net. Eriksson. Leaves it for Gillespie. Gillespie tried to leave that for Razinen. Shakopee driving the net, gets hauled down. And that draws a penalty versus or against Eagan. 4-4 for 7 seconds. And a minute 53 power play for Shakopee. Yes, I can do that math quickly. Shots 15-7 in favor of the Cats. Puck down for Meade, gets left for Beckwith. That one back to the boards. That one sent up but not out. Shakopee driving to the center, and that one off of a skate, still kept in by Shakopee as Levine pulls it to the boards and sends that one down behind the net. That one almost hits the side of the net. Loose out front. Ethan Mann takes a shot, not able to get a full one off. Minute 28 left in the penalty kill. Gillespie. Shakopee through neutral ice with speed. Defended there, bumped off the puck. Back behind the net, Meade trying to dig it away from the boards, trying to leave for Groutman. And Meade able to tip it back into the neutral zone with nice pressure. Meade still pressuring forward. Shakopee back through neutral ice. Takes it to the center. Not able to feed that tape to tape. Centering pass bounces loose again. Shakopee back to the boards. Groutman able to get it up and out. 42 seconds left in this penalty kill off of a tripping call. Sent all the way down. Around for Beckwith. Beckwith, hard pass over to Levine. Levine sends it down the length of the ice for another clear. 20 seconds left. Shakopee, stretch pass. Across the ice, kept in. Centering opportunity, goes wide. Shakopee gets it into the boards. Back to their point. Stretch pass to the other side, save. St. Eriksson. And the Cats are back at full strength. Off off the ice. Levine back on. Liam Rasnan for the Caps. That down to Sankey. He pulls that back. Still loose contested. Shot does not get all the way through as Yerk leaves that for Strom. Strom through neutral ice. Got Stanky with him. Bumped off the puck. Kept in there with 3 Wildcats on the sideboards there. Over to the other side, Razanen will be the first honor for the Cats. Razanen to Thomas. Thomas back across the ice to Yerk. Yerk trying to find Strom, brings it in onside. Strom sends it towards the net. Deflected behind. Yerk leaves it out front. That one's going to get sent down all the way for an icing whistle. Back to the boards. Shakopee sends it behind their own net. Siljan watching. Forces the pass. That one goes into neutral ice. Beckwith defending. Around the back of the net. Shakopee maintains control. Sends it to their point. Shot on net. Kicked into the boards by Eriksson. Eriksson brings it to the center. Shot and goal. Sharp angle from the side of the circle there. Shakopee brings this one up 2-1.
Scoring for the Sabres scored the second goal of the evening. Number 6, Colton Chrisick, unassisted, out of the goal, 7:52. Once again, it's Chrisick, unassisted from the Sabres, 7:52.
Far side of the ice, Gillespie defending. Shakopee brings it around the back of the net. Cycles behind. Gillespie sends it back to the boards. Back down for Mann. Mann leaves that for Gillespie. Gillespie up the boards, trying to hit Groutman. That one too far. Back down for Thomas. Thomas sends a pass up, intercepted by Shakopee. And offside is the whistle. Puck back down to Thomas. Thomas trying to stand up for Yerk, ends up on the stick of Gillespie. Gillespie to Thomas. Thomas pass up to Yerk. Yerk's going to dump that in. Goes into the far corner. DD pass behind Shakopee net. Stanky able to step up, recover, center shot by Yerk there, right in the top of the crease. Shakopee, the other direction, kicks it ahead. Gillespie going to be first on it for the Wildcats. Gillespie sends it over for Thomas. Thomas, stretch, tipped into the zone by Yerk. That one trickles in on net, sent behind the net. Yerk loses an edge as Shakopee comes through neutral ice. Sent back down into center. And dumped deep. Eriksson paddles it aside for Thomas. Steps up, gets it back up to the point, not able to get it out. Shakopee circles back around, sends it across. Top of the circle, shot, deflected behind the net, and sent around the boards by Gillespie. Back to the Shakopee point. Shot goes high, just wide. They bring it to the center. Shot and goal. Shakopee 3-1 with 4:59 left. Pulling back even 2 shots on net. 16-12. Eagan's still up, but by a much smaller margin now.
Scoring for the Sabres, completing the hat trick, number 6, Colton Christian. He's assisted by number 9, Matt Peace.
Hat trick by that player as that one goes cross ice. Stretch past center ice. Siljan able to tip aside. Siljan just had a rush on the net. Lost the handle the last minute. Schmidt with a nice stick to interrupt the play. That one, top of circles. Kept in there by Shakopee as that goes off the glass. Levine will be first on it. Levine, little past the stick of Eddie. Eddie behind the net, and Siljan. Siljan, front. Poked ahead by Eddie. Shakopee recovers. Shakopee sends it down. That one off the stick of Erickson. Wraparound opportunity through the center. Schmidt pulls it back to himself. Leaves that for Siljan. Siljan takes it to the boards. Waits for help. Tried to feed it through. Intercepted there. Siljan recovers his own shot. Across to Razanen. To Schmidt. Still loose. Penalty coming. Interference. On Shakopee. Brings the Cats back onto their second power play of the game. 3:47 left in the period, trying to capitalize and pull themselves back up to down by 1 instead of 2. Back with Thomas Mann. Draw from Mead, back to the point for Beckwith. Beckwith leaves that for Mead. Mead centers, Mann out front. Gets bumped off. Groutman leaves that for Mead. Mead, Mann comes in. Mann leaves that for Thomas. Thomas shot, goes high wide. Behind the net for Cats is Mead. Mead loses the handle. That one goes back around to Shakopee. Shakopee not able to clear, so pressure there by Mann and Mead. All the way up the boards. Shakopee able to get it back into neutral, but Mead able to recover. Mann over to Groutman. Groutman leaves that for Mann. Mann trying to pull to the center. Runs into pressure. Thomas able to get it back into the corner for Mann. Mann with good pressure helps freeze the puck. Groutman comes in to help as well. Groutman behind the net. Tried to send that to the point. Intercepted there by Shakopee. Goes cross ice for Thomas. Thomas sends that through for Mann. That one gets intercepted, sent all the way down the length by Shakopee. Shakopee behind the net. Beckwith and Thomas. That one back out for Urich. Shakopee touches back up, waits for reinforcements, and they'll send that down deep. And now stretch. Steinke had to wait, sends a shot on net. Bounces wide. Kept in there by Steinke. Steinke into the corner. Kept in. I'm going to pass the ticket to Thomas. Urich. To Strom. Back down for Thomas. Thomas stops short. Gets that puck intercepted as Shakopee rushes towards the net. Not able to get a center off. Back to the point, kept in, shot, glove down, still loose, and then back out to the blue line. Strom bumped off the puck. Beckwith forces the pass in, and Thomas sends it around the boards. Strom leaves that for Steinke. Steinke takes that behind the net, sends it around for Beckwith. Beckwith to Urich. Urich only able to get that up back up to the point. Shot hard and low, goes to the boards. Back to the point, shot wide. Shakopee cycles back down. Steinke, Thomas behind the net. Shakopee looking to pull it off the boards. That one goes off for Thomas. Bounces off a Shakopee player. High stick against the Sabres, so we will have under a minute left. Eagan offensive zone faceoff. Eddie, Schmidt, Stilgen, Gillespie, Razanen. Puck down for Eddie. Stretch pass to the point. Gillespie rushing with a nice back check. Shot and save. Back to the point. Razanen applying pressure there. Stilgen able to get it back into mid-ice. And a nice kick ahead there by Schmidt. Stilgen not able to pull it around one. Shakopee dumps it back into the zone. Shakopee pulls it to center, interrupted there by Gillespie as he sends that down the ice. And that one will go towards and on net. 19 seconds left in the second period. Stilgen skates by. Shakopee up the boards. Tipped into zone onside. 10 seconds left. Shakopee back to their point. And clock reads 0. Cats and Sailors head to the locker room, and we'll be back for third period after this Zamboni clear. Thanks for joining us. Back for the third period. Cats find themselves in a 2-goal deficit. The worst lead to have in hockey, so lots of play still remaining. 15 minutes on the clock. Puck is down. Man able to push that into the offensive zone. Mead out front, trying to center for Man. That one almost sneaks in the corner. Out front, still loose. Whip shot there by Man, and penalty coming on. Looks like Mead. Oh, I'm sorry. Mead might have been the recipient of that. Back to the point for Razanen. Cats on a power play. Point for Levine. Levine back to Razanen. Razanen deep. Centering pass. Groutman. Back to the point for Razanen to Groutman. Groutman's shot gets deflected. Kept in at the point. Razanen feeds that behind the net. Goalie left that behind. Back out. All the way down. Erickson recovers. Leaves that for Levine. Levine behind the net. 1:29 left. Levine comes out, feathers that up all the way down the ice. Icing whistle. They can't wait for the cameras. Back behind the net, Shakopee centers that one back to the boards for Schmidt. Shakopee lost their stick, so that one gets into the zone. Sent off the glass all the way back down. Shakopee takes it. Nice stick there by Beckwith. So he leaves it behind for Eddie. Eddie sends it for Thomas. Thomas sends it across again for Eddie. Eddie to Siljan, leaves it for Eddie. Eddie slows it down, leaves it for Thomas. Eddie at the point. Shot low, gets deflected, and Shakopee sends that one all the way down. Eddie behind his own net, 30 seconds left in the power play, leaves that for Thomas. Thomas stretch all the way up to Schmidt. Schmidt enters the zone onside, sends that across. Sutternutt Siljan gets blocked, and Shakopee able to send that down briefly on net. Erickson out front to the boards for Shakopee. 5 seconds left. Back to the point, shot low, tipped into the corner. Shakopee back at full strength. Gillespie and Siljan working it off the boards. That one comes loose. Gillespie sends it behind the net. Strom trying to get there and does. Sends it up into the neutral zone. Strom waiting to get onside, dumps it in. Shakopee recovers. Leaves it to the top of their circles and then back down for Razanen. Razanen to Strom. Stanky brings it in, gets it to the boards. Trying to send it back for Urick. Urick sends it, wraps around. Back over into the corner. Shakopee the other direction. That one sent back to the boards for Gillespie. Kept in there by Stanky. Stanky for Gillespie. Gillespie shot center for Urick. Urick gets pushed into the boards. Back to the slot, stretch pass. Razanen defending, able to pick it back the other way. Kept up there. Urick helps get that one back behind the net, deep into the zone. Nice speed there by Groutman. That one gets tipped all the way back down. Gillespie behind his own net. Brings up the boards, sustains a slash, and brings it to the center. Gillespie ducks around one, miss. That one sent to the side of the net. Man helps keep that in, loses an edge. back to the top. Mead gets pushed away, able to recover. Sends it up for Levine. Levine shot on net, gets blocked. Thomas, shot, deflected, back to the boards, another shot, glove down there by Thomas. Centering for Groutman, Groutman shot, deflected, still worked and covered. Shot on goal, just off the tip of the glove from Mann. Mann dumps that back in. Thomas got it deeper, but Shakopee recovers. Nice stick by Levine and Mann. That one goes deep into the corner. Shakopee, center goes through the crease. Stick there by Mead. Help from Levine and Mann. That one back out for Mann, loose. Sends it over for Groutman. Groutman trying to send that up deep, but then sent back down. No icing. Beckwith lost the handle behind the corner. Eddie takes advantage of a player that loses his edge. Mead enters his zone with Schmidt. Mead shot goes high and wide. That one kept in. Schmidt shot low, almost tipped in by Mead at the corner there. Shakopee through neutral, tips that in. Schmidt recovers, takes it back to the boards. That one back down, gets loose. Schmidt not able to get it out of the zone. Beckwith pulls it to the center, loses it. Mead, Levine, shot, blocker save into the corner. Eddie pushes pressure into the corner. Back behind the net is Levine. Levine sends it up the boards for Mead. That one goes all the way down. Not far enough for icing. Beckwith at center ice. That was high. Gets a face full of stick. Schmidt, Beckwith along the boards. And Shakopee enters the zone offside. Quick whistle. Looks like the ref got stung in the face too. And we'll have a quick timeout for a cleanup on center ice. I think a stick. Back on the ice, looks like we'll be running with one ref. And might be able to pull a second one from the next game. But puck's back down, loose in the middle of the circle. Beckwith able to get it all the way around the boards to Schmidt. Schmidt trying to pull it away for Eddie. Eddie comes in to help. Back down behind the net, Beckwith. Beckwith to Siljan. Siljan tried to fan that over, had Schmidt going. Schmidt rushing the puck, able to pull it to the side, over to the center, not able to pull it away for his own rebound. Shakopee, the other direction. Pulls it to the center, nice stick away by Schmidt and Gillespie. Schmidt takes it to the corner. Shakopee tried to blow it to the center. Centering opportunity, shot doesn't get off. Gillespie sends it up for, tried to send that up for Siljan, kept in there by Shakopee. Center, shot low, hard, gets fights into the corner. That one rings around the boards for Siljan, who sends it all the way down. Happy to get the icing clear. Stanky to Razdan. Razdan sends that all the way around. Gonna be too far for Strom. Kept in there. Off the stick of Yurk back into the corner. Razdan gets shoved from behind. Stanky comes to help out. That one brought back to the center. Kept in. Back to the point. Stick breaks for Shakopee as that one goes back to the boards. For Razdan. Stanky. Stanky leaves that for Thomas. 7:08 left. That one hits the back of the net. Stanky. Thomas. Thomas stretch all the way out to Strom. Strom gets bothered from behind and gets that puck taken away from him. Shakopee stretch to the glass. Yurk to Razdan. Razdan cross ice to Strom. Strom tipped that into the zone, gets the face full stick. Shot on net, gets covered for a stoppage of play. Groutman, man, Levine, Mead, Beckwith. That one kept in, sent to center ice. Shakopee enters the zone, brings it to the outside, goes around the back of the net, cycles back down low, back to the stick, back to the boards, cycle behind the red line, back up the boards, stepped around one. Bring that to the center, shot, gets deflected, still loose out front, and then send over to the boards. Not past, not out. Groutman backhands it. Mead brings that in, got Mann streaking to the net as well. Mann, shot, deflected. Mead, waiting to touch back up, leaves that for Levine. Levine steps up, keeps to the outside, briefly into the zone. Shakopee gets it back out into the neutral. Shakopee brings that back deep. Bean sends that to the corner. Shakopee picks that up. Took 3 guys to do it. That one gets sent back around for Levine. Levine sends it up the boards. Groutman lays a hit. Levine pulls it off the boards. Mann to Mead. Mead sends that deep into the zone. Goes off for a change. Shakopee. Neutral ice. Razdan sends that back for Gillespie. Gillespie back to the boards. Razdan not able to stick on it, still working on it. Leaves it for Eddie. Eddie brings it in. Shot coming off the tip of the glove. Siljan to the point. Shot low, goes wide. Back to the boards. Eddie. Shot low, glove save. 4:41 left. Wildcats still need 2 to pull back in even. Puck down, Eddie pressing into the corner. Siljan comes in to help out. That one to the boards. Stretch pass. Aslan defending, that one shot and save. Erickson. Stanky pulls that back. Beckwith sends it around the boards. Strom able to get there. Shot hard into the opposite corner. Beckwith behind the net. Out there by Stanky. Shakopee pulls it out center. Nice save, Erickson. Stanky comes the other way. Got Urick. Pulls it to Urick. Tried to get that back to Stanky. Urick dumps that deep. Strom behind the net. Stanky to help. Strom. Backhand pass. Strom ties that up in the corner. Gets back to the boards. Van pressuring. That one goes all the way down. Icing waved off. And stretch pass up to Mann. Left for Urick is bumped off. Groutman brings that in, has reinforcements, takes that into the corner, sends that to point for Beckwith. Beckwith shot through traffic. Groutman side of the net. That one's still off the net. Goalie on the ground. Up front, Thomas shot. Save again. That one's still loose and covered for a whistle. Little extracurricular to the box. Coincidentals, 2-minute minors. Guy was a little far of the dot. Guy was on this side of the faceoff. Back down, Schmidt. Schmidt drops shot, save, and glove.
Both penalties roughing at 13:50. Once again, puts one minor roughing penalties at 13:50. On 34, Young.
6 on 5. That one gets set up into the rafters. Back down for Gillespie. Empty net for the Wildcats. Neutral ice. Kicked ahead by Mann. Shakopee leaves that down on the boards. Pass to stick of Levine. Mead sends that to Levine. Levine cross ice pass to Mann. Brought in by Schmidt. Schmidt, shot ahead, Eddie. Gillespie, shot through traffic, kicked aside. That one, glove down by Gillespie, brings it in offside. Shots 27-19 in favor of the Cats. Back down for Stanky. Down for Siljan. Siljan, D to D, Gillespie. Gillespie sends that across. Strom able to get it in. Back. Urick sends it for Siljan. Shot tipped up and over the net. That one sent back around behind. That one back neutral ice for Siljan. 144 to Gillespie. Gillespie sends it on deep. Levine in the corner, trying to bring it to the front. Stanky hits the side of the net. And Shakopee able to recover. That one sent down, goes wide of the net, no icing. 121 left, Sham behind the net. Sham to Levine. Levine sends a pass up, tips it up. Shakopee back down, up to Uric. Uric tried to send it over for Siljan. That one gets back down for Gillespie. Gillespie, 1 minute left, over to Levine. At mid-ice, Levine sends it over. Schmidt and Eddie just outside the blue line, taken in by Mann. Mann has Siljan with him, and over to Siljan. Siljan shot, glove save. Shakopee. 46.6 seconds left. 6-on-4 with an empty net. Puck's down for Meade. Shot by Eddie coming loose out front, not saved. Shakopee trying to get rid of it, send it through center ice. That one's going to go all the way down just wide of the net. Why is that not icing? 30 seconds. Thomas to Schmidt, gets tipped in, back down. And now we'll get an icing whistle, 22.5 seconds left. I agree. Whatever he said. Puck down, Meade pulls it to the front, sends it across the crease. That one to go all the way down for another icing whistle with 14.6 seconds left. Puck down for Mann, shot. Nice shot from Eddie there. Razinen, shot through traffic, bounces through, still loose. Schmidt to the boards, Razinen, shot through traffic, still loose up front, covered. And that'll be it. Eagan drops this game 3-1. We'll be back on Saturday. Another home game versus Lakeville South. Tuesday versus Rosemount away, and then one more final game back here at Eagan Civic versus Apple Valley Burnsville. Shakopee 3, Eagan 1, shots 34.